China, like many other nations, has long grappled with issues of corruption. However, in recent years, a disquieting pattern has emerged. High-ranking officials not only engaging in massive corruption schemes but also fleeing the country with ill-gotten wealth. This phenomenon has not only shocked the Chinese public but also led to growing reflections on the structural weaknesses that allow such misconduct to occur. The story of former Vice Mayor Li Chuanliang, who embezzled billions before fleeing China, is a poignant example of this larger trend. Li's case, like many others, serves as both a symptom and a catalyst for broader discussions about the failings in China's governance system, public accountability, and anti-corruption mechanisms. A case of unimaginable corruption. Li Chuanliang. On October 11, 2024, China's People's Court Daily published a detailed exposé of Li Chuanliang's corruption case, one of the most shocking in recent memory. Li, a former vice mayor of Mudanjiang, had been on the run for years, having managed to siphon off more than 3.1 billion yuan, approximately $470 million. His assets included real estate, land, vehicles, and enormous sums of money. The sheer scale of his corruption, along with the ease with which he transferred assets abroad, raises pressing questions about the loopholes in China's financial and regulatory systems. Li's saga began in 2017, when he resigned from his post as vice mayor. The resignation itself was suspicious, given that Li was only 57 at the time, well below the retirement age for Chinese officials. However, the real shock came a year later when he, following the earlier departure of his family, fled the country, taking a fortune with him. Public outrage quickly mounted as more details surfaced. Not only had Li been able to resign without triggering any investigations, but his family's departure a year earlier had also failed to raise alarms. Structural vulnerabilities in the system. Li's case is emblematic of systemic weaknesses that have allowed corrupt officials to exploit their positions and escape accountability. A critical question raised by Chinese media and commentators alike was, how was it possible for a local official to amass such vast wealth under the nose of regulatory bodies? Why was Li not monitored more closely when he resigned, particularly given the suspicious timing of his family's emigration? One clear vulnerability is the lack of effective oversight mechanisms for officials who resign or retire. Once out of office, officials like Li are often able to operate outside the immediate purview of the government, leaving a gaping hole in China's anti-corruption strategy. This gap was starkly highlighted by the ease with which Li was able to transfer his fortune abroad, including real estate, land, and company shares. The public discourse has also pointed to a concerning overlap between official duties and private interests. In Li's case, it was revealed that he held shares in multiple companies, a clear conflict of interest for a government official. This revelation not only raised questions about the integrity of the official appointment system but also pointed to deeper issues of collusion between the private and public sectors in China. #The role of protective umbrellas. One of the most troubling aspects of cases like Li's is the suspicion that high-level officials are protected by what the Chinese public calls protective umbrellas, bahusan. These are networks of influence that shield corrupt individuals from scrutiny and allow them to operate with impunity. Public discussions surrounding Li's case have repeatedly questioned whether higher-ranking officials were complicit in his actions, either turning a blind eye or actively facilitating his corruption. The extent of these protective umbrellas and their role in fostering a culture of impunity is a matter of ongoing debate. These suspicions have not been confined to Li Chuanliang's case alone. In recent years, a number of similar scandals have rocked China, revealing that the problem of corruption and impunity extends far beyond individual bad actors. The fact that officials like Li are able to escape the country with billions in assets points to a much deeper and more entrenched problem: a lack of transparency and accountability within the government itself. #The social and economic impact of corruption. The escape of corrupt officials not only undermines the rule of law but also has profound social and economic consequences. The billions siphoned off by these individuals represent funds that could have been invested in public goods, such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. In many cases, these funds come directly from the pockets of taxpayers, exacerbating inequality and fueling public disillusionment with the government. Moreover, the flight of these officials erodes trust in China's legal and regulatory systems. The perception that wealthy and well-connected individuals can escape justice undermines public confidence in the rule of law. It also perpetuates a sense of powerlessness among ordinary citizens, who feel that the government is either unable or unwilling to hold corrupt officials accountable. Reflections on the current system. In response to cases like Li Chuanliang's, there has been a growing chorus of voices calling for structural reforms to China's governance system. One of the most frequently discussed reforms is the need for a more robust asset declaration system for officials. Under such a system, officials would be required to declare their assets publicly, making it easier to detect discrepancies between their reported income and actual wealth. Currently, China's asset declaration system is opaque, with little transparency or accountability. Another proposed reform is the establishment of a more comprehensive monitoring system for officials who resign or retire. Such a system would include regular audits of their financial activities and tighter controls on the transfer of assets abroad. Additionally, there have been calls for greater public participation in anti-corruption efforts, recognizing that the scrutiny of the media and the public can serve as powerful deterrents against corruption. The international dimension. The flight of corrupt Chinese officials to foreign countries has also drawn attention to the international dimensions of the problem. Many officials, like Li Chuanliang, flee to countries where they can evade extradition, taking advantage of legal loopholes and weak international cooperation on corruption cases. This has led to growing calls for stronger international agreements to facilitate the extradition of corrupt officials and the recovery of stolen assets. The Chinese government has taken steps to address this issue through initiatives like Operation Skynet, which aims to track down and repatriate corrupt officials living abroad. However, the effectiveness of these initiatives has been limited by the reluctance of some countries to cooperate with Chinese authorities, often due to concerns about the fairness of China's legal system. The case of Li Chuanliang has ignited a fierce debate in China about the need for systemic reforms to prevent future cases of corruption and ensure that those who abuse their power are held accountable. While the Chinese government has made significant strides in its anti-corruption efforts, the escape of officials like Li highlights the persistent weaknesses in the current system. The growing public outcry for greater transparency, stricter oversight, and more effective international cooperation reflects a broader demand for change. A demand that, if met, could mark a turning point in China's ongoing struggle against corruption. At the heart of these discussions is a simple but powerful idea. For China to truly prosper, it must build a governance system that is not only effective but also accountable to its people. The fight against corruption is not just about punishing wrongdoers. It is about building a society where the rule of law prevails, and where public trust in government can be restored.